bug, so you can go inside Second Chance, is you can participate by dropping in and listening to discussions from real people who are doing what they talk about, who know what they're talking about. And up at 90% is a thing called simulation. And that's where games come from. The reason I learned so much from my rich dad was because my rich dad used a game of Monopoly. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I retained a lot. I learned a lot. And then rich dad would coach me and talk to me and educate me about how to do the real thing. So that I hear many people say, oh, it's so risky. What you do is so risky. Oftentimes, those are the people who are like my poor dad. They did well in school, a lot of times A students, many times accountants and attorneys and doctors, but they've only learned how to learn from reading and from lecture. And when it comes up to this level here, which is practice in the simulation, playing the game, and then doing the real thing, then they say it's risky. And it is risky if you've been taught not to simulate, not to practice. You see, the way we as humans are designed to learn is by making mistakes. For example, a baby learns to walk by standing up, falling down, standing up, falling down. Then after they learn how to walk, then they learn to run. Then they get on a bicycle, and again, they fall off, stand up, fall off, and then they learn how to ride. But our school system, especially down at the base level here, the reading and lecture, is if you make a mistake, they punish you. They always punish you for making a mistake. That's why so many of these really smart people can't do anything, because this is what Edgar Dale is talking about. It's simulation and then doing the real thing. So what I suggest is you read this book, listen to some of the lectures, watch this video in entirety, discuss it, participate in it, listen to what the experts are saying, and then you may want to play either Monopoly or the game Cash Flow and play it and play it and play it again until it sinks into your head, and then you do the real thing. That's what I suggest. But if you're afraid of making mistakes, which is what these people like my poor dad are, what if I make a mistake? If I make a mistake, I'm stupid. Well, that's what's wrong with the school system. That's wrong with traditional education. They punish you for making mistakes. Now you look at it this way, I love flight school. I love learning to be a pilot and getting ready to go to Vietnam. The reason I like flight school at Pensacola, Florida and Camp Pendleton, California was because we simulated in preparation to doing the real thing. So this is what flight school looked like. We go to school in the morning, we'd listen to real instructors lecture us, then we'd fly in the afternoon. So study in the morning, fly in the afternoon, and then we did the real thing in Vietnam. Now, one of the things we practiced was crashing. It seems strange to people, but we as Marine pilots practice crashing, practice emergency, crashing, emergency. So when the real thing happened, when I was in Vietnam, I went down 3 times, and this is what a picture of a helicopter gunship looks like going into the water. When it happened, it was frightening, but we knew what to do. We were not killed because the Marine Corps and Navy flight school teaches us to practice, crashing. And that's what you'll learn in Monopoly or the Cash Flow game by listening to our coaches or listening to the radio show or listening to real instructors who are doing the real thing. Then you're ready to do the real thing. So is investing risky? Is starting your own business risky? Yes. But what is worse is by just knowing the answers and reading books and not knowing how to do the real thing. So the purpose of Rich Dad was we want you to simulate, practice, and learn. Today I'm reading constantly, and I'm going to classes constantly, and I'm also practicing, making my mistakes, learning from my mistakes, and doing the real thing. That's the way humans are designed to learn. The trouble is our government and our economy and many of our businesses are run by people who only know how to read and only learn by lecture. And that's why we're in severe financial trouble today. So once again, education has more than one side. It is important you read, but as well as you practice and do the real thing, because that's where real learning takes place. As I said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I did my best to keep it super simple so you can decide what's best for you. You see, we're all different. You know, what I do with my money is different than what you should do. For example, because I have financial education, I don't save money. I love debt. I use debt. I understand the tax law, and I don't invest for the long term in a 401k in the stock market. I won't do that, but it might be the best move for you. So again, when you read Second Chance, you can sit there and look at it and go, well, what's next for me? Second Chance gives you the opportunity to decide what's best for you. So in 1983, after Dr. Fuller passed away, I had to ask myself, what can I do? I'm just a little guy. But then I realized what I could do is teach the world what my rich dad taught me. So my question to you is, what can you do?
What one man can do is change the world and make it young again. Don't you see what one man can do? As shaded as his eyes might be, that's how bright his mind is.
As we all know, 2016 will soon be upon us. We have about a year and a half to find out if Rich Dad's prophecy and Bucky Fuller's predictions will come true. Let's hope they were wrong. Yet, as you all know, if you saw in part one on CNN with Wolf Blitzer and Bloomberg and other TV stations, I did get it right. As predicted in Rich Dad's prophecy, there would be a preliminary crash prior to the giant crash of 2016. And that preliminary crash came in October 2007 when the Dow hit 14,000 and headed down and led to the crash and economic crisis we are in today. The crash of 2007 was a warning. It was meaning, get prepared. Unfortunately, Grunch is not making any changes, but the good news is you can. So that's why I wrote Second Chance. There are things that you can do to not be a victim of the coming giant crash, whether it comes in 2016 or a few years later. But it is coming. See, crashes can be good because crashes, like a coin, has three sides. You know, you can stand on the edge and look and say, well, which side of this crash do I want to be on? You know, on one side, the crash will wipe out millions of people, just as the crash of 2007 did. On the other side, you can look at what the smart people are doing, is you can say, oh my God, this is my chance to make tremendous headway. I can get rich instead of get wiped out like everybody else. So again, a crash has three sides. Your job is to decide which side do you want to be on. You want to be on the side that gets wiped out, or you want to be on the side that makes fortunes because of it. See, the good news is, after 2007, many companies and many individuals started making changes. They said, look, we got to do something different. So those people, when the next crash comes, again, be it 2016 or a few years later, they'll be stronger, better, more prepared to do very well when that crash comes. So the good news is, in a crash, you can get richer much, much faster. I mean, after 2007, I thought I died and went to heaven. It was a wonderful time, except unfortunately, millions of people got wiped out because they didn't know what was coming. So remember this, it's really a good time in a crash because when things come down, you actually can get rich faster if you know what you're doing. For example, and let's say this doesn't happen, let's say the US dollar crashes, it goes down. Well, on the other side of it, if you're in precious metals like gold and silver, you can get rich really quickly. That's how crashes work. Another thing, if the dollar crashes, savers will be losers, but debtors will be winners. That's what we're coming up against in 2016. And if there is a crash in 2016, unemployment will go through the roof, which is bad for most people. But what will happen also is millions of people will want to join a network marketing company, or they'll finally want to learn to be entrepreneurs rather than employees. So there's good and bad, always three sides to every coin to you. So let me get my flip chart and I'll explain to you why savers are losers today. So now don't check out on me right now. I know this may look a little confusing, but I promise you I'll make it as simple as possible. But this is how Grunch is ripping off people today. This is what my rich dad saw back in 1971 and Bucky Fuller saw, which he wrote about in 1983. So this here is an equation called the exchange of money. Again, don't check out on me, hang on, but you'll understand how how grunge rips you off if you save money. So this M stands for money supply. Now why that's important is because after 1971, they could print as much money as they liked, okay? V stands for velocity, how fast your money is moving. So people who save money and people who invest for the long term, ILT, their money has no velocity. That's why savers are losing. They're printing all this money and your money is sitting still. Now what the banks have to do is they have to give the money to people like me who are in the B and I quadrant. These are the E's and S's. These are the B's and I's. So your money is not moving. They really do not need your money. What they need are people like me to borrow money, because the only way the bank makes money is they give money to me, I borrow it, and I pay them a little bit of interest. So this is amount of money, money supply, this is velocity of money, and after 1971 they didn't need your money. Now this equation is really important here. It's P times Q, sometimes called price and quantity. In other words, they call this nominal GDP. The reason Fuller and my rich dad could say you're getting ripped off is because this now in America is moving to China, Pakistan, India, Africa, Mexico. In other words, our production is being moved overseas. You remember when I was a kid, Ford Motor Company had human beings, making cars. Today, they're robots making cars. They don't need you. And where are those robots made? Those robots are not made in America. They're made in China, Pakistan, India, Mexico, which is good for those countries. God bless them. But unfortunately, every time you want more money, P stands for price, the big corporations like Nike, like Apple, like General Electric, they just move the jobs offshore. So that's what's really wiping out people today, is that you want more money, they're going to move offshore. And that's what's really killing people today. So if you don't understand this, don't worry. Part of it is inside second chance. But this is the equation. After 1971, they don't need your money anymore. That's why they don't pay any money for your savings. They don't need it. But they do need people like me who can use debt. And what the grunge is here is they're just the big corporations. They're not really U.S. corporations. You think Apple is a U.S. corporation? It's not. You think General Electric's a U.S. corporation? It's not. You think Nike is a U.S. corporation? It's not. So you sit there waving the American flag, but our jobs and our factories are going overseas. And so what they tell you to do is to save your money, invest for the long term, and you're getting screwed because your money is not moving. So let me give you one more example of what's happening with your money like this. Let's say I had a restaurant, and in a night, I serve one setting of tables. One set of customers come in. I make X amount of money. But what velocity means, you want to serve 2 sets of people, 3 sets of people. And that's what velocity means. If your money is parked in a savings account or in a long-term, investing for the long term, you're getting screwed. You're getting screwed because your money is not moving. There's no velocity. So on page 319 in Second Chance, I write about what I do. I'm not recommending that you do it, but what financial education allows me to do is I keep my money, but it's not really my money. It's your money moving. And that's one reason the rich are getting richer. And again, this is how Fuller and Rich Dad could predict that your wealth was being ripped off by the biggest banks, our corporations, and our school system. So this is the thing called the velocity of money. Your money is not moving. That's why you're being ripped off, because they keep printing more of it. And if the stock market crash, the people who don't move their money get wiped out. So if you don't understand this, don't worry. 99.99% of the people don't. In fact, the economist in my economics class who taught me, they didn't understand it either. They don't understand this because most economists, they save money and they have a retirement account. They have to be an investor, a B or an I, to understand this. So if you don't understand it, The reason this video is made available to all of you is sit down with your friends, 2 or 3 friends, watch this video, discuss the whole video. Do it 2 or 3 times, because repetition is how we learn. Every time you watch this video, you'll learn a little bit more. So if you don't understand this, don't worry about it, because the economist who taught me this when I was in business school, he didn't understand it either, because he saved his money and he invested for the long term in the stock market. And what the rich are doing is to keep the speed of the money, the velocity of their money up. Please discuss the number of times and you'll see a whole nother world. So the people that pay the highest taxes, again, are employees in the E quadrant, self-employed in the S quadrant, savers, and employees with 401ks. These are just examples of the ways Grunch rips us off, steals our wealth, just because we have no financial education in our schools. That's criminal. So let me talk straight once more. Everything I'm saying about taxes and business and all that, that's true all over the world. But our schools will never teach you that. So those of you who say you can only do it in America, you're a loser. You can do it in your country and anywhere around the world. You have to think like a capitalist, though. If Fuller's predictions are true, the next 20 years will not be like the past 20 years. So for those of you who think your job is safe, think again. For those of you who think your savings are safe, think again. And for those of you who think your college education will save you, think again. The next 20 years will be unlike anything like the past 20 years. So be prepared.
He had it easy, had it made in fact, before he'd even begun. But they don't know the things I know. I was always with him. It may sound strange, we were more